The rain had been relentless all day, its gray clouds casting a somber shadow over the city. As evening fell, the streetlights flickered on, struggling against the oppressive darkness. The hum of distant traffic was punctuated by the occasional splash of water as vehicles sped past, their headlights briefly illuminating the faces of those seeking refuge from the storm. Daniel Matthews, a wealthy businessman with a reputation for both success and detachment, had just finished a grueling day of meetings. His sleek black car cut through the rain-soaked streets as he made his way home. From the comfort of his vehicle, he glanced out the window, lost in thought about the day's events and the upcoming gala he was expected to attend. As he approached a particularly grimy corner of the city, his gaze fell upon a sight that jarred him from his reverie. Beneath a battered awning of a closed storefront, huddled against the wall, were a woman and a small child. The woman, whose clothes were worn and soaked through, held the child tightly against her chest, attempting to shield her from the relentless downpour. The child's face, partially obscured by a tattered hat, peeked out with eyes wide and fearful. Daniel's car slowed, and he found himself staring at the tableau of hardship. His instincts, honed by years of navigating complex business deals, seemed to falter in the face of such raw human need. He told himself it was merely a fleeting moment, a distraction from the pressing concerns of his life, but his gaze remained fixed on the pair. The contrast between their struggle and his world of luxury felt jarring. Compelled by an unfamiliar pang of empathy, Daniel made a sudden decision. He directed his driver to pull over. As the car came to a stop, he stepped out into the rain, the cold water quickly soaking through his tailored suit. His heart raced as he approached the woman and child, the patter of the rain on the pavement masking his footsteps. "Excuse me," Daniel said, his voice firm yet gentle. The woman looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of surprise and wariness. "I'd like to help you." The woman hesitated, her eyes darting nervously between Daniel and the child. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want?" Daniel took a deep breath, the rain mingling with his breath as he spoke. "I have a place you can stay. It's not much, but it's warm and dry. Please, let me help." For a moment, the woman seemed to struggle with the offer, her distrust evident. She clutched her child tighter, as if afraid that any gesture of kindness might be another trick. But the sheer exhaustion on her face, coupled with the relentless rain, seemed to sway her decision. Slowly, she nodded, a glimmer of hope sparking in her tired eyes. "All right," she said softly. "Thank you." Daniel guided them back to his car, his mind racing with questions and concerns. As they drove through the city, he stole glances at the mother and child in the rearview mirror. The mother's grip on her child was protective, yet weary, and the child, though quiet, clung to her mother with a palpable sense of reliance. When they arrived at his home, a grand mansion with its own impressive aura of security and comfort, Daniel led them inside. The warmth of the house was a stark contrast to the cold night outside, and the mother's eyes widened with a mix of relief and disbelief. She looked around, taking in the opulent surroundings, her expression a mixture of gratitude and bewilderment. Daniel showed them to a guest room, where a clean bed and warm blankets awaited. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said, trying to reassure them. "I'll have some food sent up shortly. If you need anything, just let me know." As he closed the door behind him, Daniel's thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions. He couldn't shake the feeling that this seemingly simple act of kindness was the beginning of something far more profound. Little did he know, the night's events were only the first step in a journey that would unravel truths he had long buried and intertwine their fates in ways he could never have anticipated. The rain continued to fall outside, each drop a reminder of the world's harsh realities and the unexpected paths that lay ahead. The soft glow of early morning light filtered through the heavy curtains of Daniel's guest room. The sound of the rain had finally ceased, leaving behind a serene calm that seemed almost surreal after the night storm. Daniel stood in the doorway, his expression thoughtful as he watched Maria and Anna, still wrapped in blankets, stirring awake. Maria's eyes fluttered open, revealing a mix of exhaustion and relief. She looked around the room, taking in the soft furnishings and the warmth that seemed to envelop her. Her gaze fell on Anna, who was curled up beside her, still fast asleep. For a moment, Maria simply lay there, absorbing the unexpected comfort of their new surroundings. Daniel cleared his throat gently to announce his presence. "Good morning," he said, his voice carrying a note of warmth. "I hope you both slept well." Maria sat up slowly, her movements cautious. "Good morning," she replied, her voice tinged with hesitation. "Thank you for everything." Daniel nodded and offered a reassuring smile. "I'm glad you're comfortable. I've arranged for breakfast to be brought up. If there's anything else you need, don't hesitate to ask." As he left the room, Daniel couldn't help but feel a pang of curiosity about Maria and Anna. He was eager to understand their story, yet he knew better than to press too hard too soon. He hoped that in time, they would open up about their past. Downstairs, Daniel paced the length of his study, his mind racing. The encounter with Maria and Anna had stirred something deep within him, a sense of responsibility and a longing to help more profoundly. He glanced at the clock on the wall, noting that it was time to check on them again. The door to the guest room opened slowly as Daniel entered, carrying a tray with breakfast. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries filled the room, providing a stark contrast to the harshness of the previous night. Maria and Anna were already seated at the small table, Anna's eyes wide with curiosity as she took in the new environment. "Here we go," Daniel said, setting the tray down. "I hope you enjoy this. It's the least I can do to make your stay more comfortable." Maria smiled faintly, though her eyes remained guarded. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft. "You've been very kind." As they ate, Daniel took the opportunity to engage in light conversation. "So, tell me about yourselves. How did you end up out there in the rain?" Maria hesitated, her fingers nervously fidgeting with a piece of pastry. "It's a long story," she began slowly. "My name is Maria, and this is Anna, my daughter. We've been struggling for a while now. Things just got worse, and we found ourselves on the streets." Daniel nodded, listening intently. "I'm sorry to hear that. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been. If you're comfortable sharing, I'd like to know more about what brought you to that point." Maria's eyes flickered with a mix of wariness and resolve. "It's not easy to talk about," she admitted, "but I suppose it's important. I used to have a job, but after losing it, everything just spiraled. I did what I could to provide for Anna, but..." Her voice trailed off as she looked at her daughter, who was now nibbling on a piece of fruit. Daniel could see the pain and resilience etched into Maria's face. "You're very brave," he said softly. "I'm sure you did everything you could. Sometimes, life throws us into the deepest challenges, but we find a way to keep going." Maria looked up at him, her eyes meeting his with a mix of gratitude and vulnerability. "I didn't expect to find kindness like this," she said. It's overwhelming." Daniel offered a reassuring smile. "Everyone deserves a chance to start over. If there's anything I can do to help you and Anna get back on your feet, please let me know." As they continued their conversation, a subtle connection began to form between Daniel and Maria. Despite the initial awkwardness, their dialogue opened a window into their lives. Maria spoke of her dreams for Anna, and Daniel shared a bit about his own experiences, creating a bridge between their disparate worlds. The conversation flowed naturally, and for the first time, both began to feel a sense of ease. Daniel was increasingly curious about Maria's past, sensing that there was more to her story than met the eye. The revelation that awaited him was just around the corner. But for now, the simple act of connecting over breakfast was a step towards understanding. As the morning sun cast its golden rays over the mansion, Daniel realized that his decision to help Maria and Anna was more than just an act of charity. It was the beginning of a journey that would challenge his perceptions and alter the course of his life in ways he had never imagined. The seeds of a deeper connection were sown, setting the stage for the revelations yet to come. The sun had set, casting long shadows across the opulent rooms of Daniel's mansion. The comforting warmth of the house contrasted sharply with the chill of the rain-soaked night. Maria and Anna had settled into their new routine, but Daniel found himself unable to shake the curiosity that had taken root. As the evening unfolded, Daniel's mind wandered back to the stories Maria had shared over breakfast. Her words had painted a picture of struggle and resilience, but there was something she hadn't said, something that nagged at him. He knew he needed to understand more, not just out of curiosity, but to fully grasp the gravity of her situation. He retreated to his study, a room lined with dark mahogany shelves and lit by the soft glow of a desk lamp. Daniel's personal assistant had left a stack of documents on his desk, but tonight, they barely registered. His thoughts were preoccupied with Maria and Anna. Determined to uncover more, Daniel decided to delve into the records of local shelters and social services. He believed that Maria's story, though deeply personal, might have left a trace somewhere. The sound of rain against the window served as a steady backdrop, a reminder of the night that had brought Maria and Anna into his life. As he sifted through a series of files and reports, one particular document caught his eye. It was a brief news article from a few years back, detailing a tragic event involving a young woman who had lost her job and subsequently her home. The name mentioned was Maria Alvarez. The article noted her struggle to provide for her child, but there was another detail that stood out, a reference to a mysterious benefactor who had once assisted her but was never identified. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine as he read through the article. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was a connection between the woman in the article and the Maria he had met. The idea that this mysterious benefactor might have ties to his own family history began to take shape in his mind. With newfound resolve, Daniel decided to reach out to Maria. He found her in the small library off the main hallway, where she was reading to Anna. The sight of them together, nestled in a cozy armchair, reminded him of the stark contrast between their past and present. "Maria," he said gently, stepping into the room. "Do you have a moment to talk?" Maria looked up, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. "Of course," she replied, setting the book aside. Daniel took a seat across from her, his mind racing with the implications of what he had discovered. "I came across something today that might interest you," he began. It was an old news article about a woman named Maria Alvarez, someone who had faced difficulties similar to yours. Maria's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. "I remember that article," she said quietly. "It was a tough time, but how did you find out about it?" Daniel hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I was researching some records and stumbled upon it. It mentioned a mysterious benefactor who helped you. I couldn't help but wonder if there might be a connection between that person and my family." Maria's gaze grew thoughtful, and she seemed to wrestle with the decision to share more. "There is something you should know," she said finally. "The benefactor who helped us was actually a member of a wealthy family, someone who disappeared from our lives as suddenly as they appeared. I never knew who they were." Daniel leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Do you have any idea who this person might have been? Any details you can remember?" Maria paused, her eyes clouded with memory. "There was one thing, a letter left with a small sum of money, written in elegant script. It said the help was to be kept secret. But there was something else, a family crest embossed on the letter." The mention of the crest made Daniel's heart race. He had seen a similar emblem in his own family archives, a symbol tied to his ancestors. "Do you remember what the crest looked like?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Maria nodded slowly. "It was a silver crest with a lion's head and a banner beneath it. I don't know much more than that." Daniel's mind raced as he connected the dots. The emblem was unmistakably linked to his family's past. The realization was both thrilling and unsettling. The benefactor from Maria's past was likely someone from his own lineage, a fact that would intertwine their stories in ways he had not anticipated. The room seemed to close in around them as the weight of the revelation settled in. Daniel's thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and excitement. He knew that the path ahead was fraught with complexity, but one thing was certain. The connection between Maria's past and his own was more profound than he had ever imagined. As the evening drew to a close, the rain resumed its gentle patter against the windows, a rhythmic reminder of the journey that lay ahead. The secrets that had been revealed were only the beginning, and the bond forming between Daniel and Maria promised to unravel even deeper truths in the days to come. The next morning unfolded with a quiet tension hanging in the air. Daniel's mansion, usually a haven of tranquility, felt charged with an unspoken anxiety. Maria and Anna had settled into their temporary home, but the sense of unease lingered. Daniel's discovery from the previous night had stirred up emotions that neither he nor Maria fully understood. Breakfast was a subdued affair. Maria sipped her coffee slowly, her eyes distant. Anna, unaware of the underlying tension, played with her cereal, her small hands making patterns in the milk. Daniel watched them from across the table, the silence stretching between them. "Do you have any plans for today?" Daniel asked, trying to break the silence. "Is there anything specific you need or would like to do?" Maria glanced up, her eyes meeting his with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure what to do next. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I can imagine. If you need help with anything, just let me know. I want to make sure you and Anna are comfortable." After breakfast, Maria decided to take a walk through the mansion's expansive grounds. The sun had finally broken through the clouds, casting a golden light across the manicured gardens. She wandered along the paths, taking in the beauty of her surroundings, but her thoughts were heavy. The history of her mysterious benefactor weighed on her mind. Daniel watched her from a distance, his own thoughts a tumult of curiosity and concern. The revelation about the family crest had left him with more questions than answers. He was determined to dig deeper, but he was also aware of the delicate balance he needed to maintain with Maria. As Maria walked, she encountered one of Daniel's housekeepers, who greeted her warmly. Despite the friendly demeanor, Maria couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider, a guest in a world that felt alien and intimidating. Back inside the mansion, Daniel retreated to his study, where he pored over family records and old correspondence. The crest Maria had mentioned was a symbol of the Matthews family, and its appearance in her past only deepened the mystery. He discovered a collection of letters from years ago, many of which mentioned charitable donations and anonymous gifts. The connections were tenuous, but they hinted at a pattern that could lead to more information. Maria returned to the house with a deep sense of isolation. The opulence of the mansion was overwhelming, and she struggled to reconcile her current situation with the harsh reality of her past. The housekeeper had been kind, but the feeling of intrusion was ever present. As evening approached, Daniel invited Maria to join him for dinner, hoping to create a sense of normalcy. The dining room, adorned with grand chandeliers and exquisite table settings, felt like a world apart from the reality Maria had known. She accepted the invitation, albeit reluctantly, and soon found herself seated across from Daniel at a beautifully set table. The meal began in an awkward silence. Daniel made an effort to engage Maria in conversation, asking about her interests and experiences. Maria responded politely, but her answers were brief, her mind preoccupied with the whirlwind of her circumstances. "You seem lost in thought," Daniel remarked gently. "Is everything all right?" Maria put down her fork, her gaze fixed on her plate. "It's just, all of this is so overwhelming. I don't know how to navigate this world you live in. I'm grateful for your help, but I feel like I'm in a different universe." Daniel nodded, his expression sympathetic. "I understand. It's a lot to take in, and I'm sure it feels surreal. If you ever want to talk about what you're going through, I'm here to listen." Maria appreciated the offer, but the walls she had built around herself were not easily breached. The fear of being judged or misunderstood made it difficult for her to fully open up. She smiled faintly, grateful yet cautious. "Thank you. I'll keep that in mind." As dinner concluded, Daniel walked Maria back to the guest room. The mansion, though filled with luxury, seemed to close in around them with an air of formality that contrasted sharply with Maria's feelings of discomfort. The evening's events had only intensified the sense of unease. Daniel's attempts to bridge the gap between their worlds were met with polite distance, while Maria's internal struggles were masked by a veneer of gratitude. The challenges they faced were not just about navigating their differing circumstances, but about overcoming the barriers of trust and understanding that separated them. As Maria settled into her room for the night, she looked out the window at the darkening sky. The mansion's grandeur seemed distant and cold, a reminder of the stark contrast between her past and present. Her thoughts were a jumble of conflicting emotions: fear, hope, and a lingering doubt about what the future might hold. Daniel, too, faced his own challenges. The discovery of his family's connection to Maria's past had sparked a deeper curiosity and a determination to uncover the truth. But he also felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that his actions would have a profound impact on both their lives. The night outside was calm, the earlier storm a distant memory. But within the walls of the mansion, the storm of emotions continued to swirl, setting the stage for the revelations and decisions that lay ahead. The journey of understanding and trust had only just begun, and the path forward was fraught with uncertainties yet to be unraveled. The mansion was awash in the golden light of early morning, yet the warmth that usually came with the sunrise did little to ease the tension that had settled over Daniel and Maria. The previous evening had left them both grappling with the weight of their circumstances, and as the sun peeked through the curtains, it revealed a day fraught with difficult choices and internal battles. Daniel rose early, his mind consumed by the revelations and the emotional distance he had felt with Maria. As he prepared for the day, he couldn't help but reflect on the growing complexity of their situation. The discovery of the family crest and Maria's reluctance to fully open up created a chasm between their worlds that seemed increasingly daunting. Yet, his commitment to unraveling the mystery was as strong as ever. Downstairs, Maria was already awake, quietly sitting by the window in her room. The sight of the manicured gardens outside provided a stark contrast to her inner turmoil. She had been trying to process the enormity of her situation and the strain of living in a world so different from the one she had known. The tension was palpable, and she felt a growing internal conflict about how to navigate this unfamiliar environment. As Maria prepared for the day, she felt a pang of guilt for the burden she might be placing on Daniel. The kindness he had shown her and Anna was beyond what she could have hoped for, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that her presence was complicating his life. Her mind was clouded with doubt, and every decision seemed to carry a weight she wasn't sure she could bear. In the dining room, Daniel had arranged for a modest breakfast, hoping to offer some semblance of normalcy. Maria joined him, her demeanor tense and distant. Daniel noticed the change in her behavior and felt a pang of frustration mixed with concern. The growing rift between them was a source of deep discomfort. "Maria," Daniel began carefully, "I've been thinking about our conversation from last night. I understand that this situation is difficult for you, and I want to do whatever I can to make this easier. But I also need to know how you're feeling about all this. Is there something specific you need or want to discuss?" Maria looked up, her eyes reflecting the strain she felt. "It's not just about what I need," she said slowly. "It's about what I can do. I don't want to be a burden, and I'm struggling with how to manage everything. I'm grateful for your help, but I'm also scared. Scared of how to fit into this world and how to move forward." Daniel listened, the gravity of her words hitting him. He was torn between his desire to help and his growing frustration at the lack of clarity in their situation. He realized that Maria's internal conflict was mirrored by his own struggle to balance his curiosity with his sense of responsibility. "I understand," Daniel said, his voice gentle. "This is a lot to take in, and I'm sure it feels overwhelming. But I want to assure you that you're not a burden. We need to work through this together, and I'm here to support you in whatever way I can." Maria nodded, but the weight of her decision still hung heavy. She knew she had to make choices about her future, but the fear of making the wrong decision paralyzed her. The uncertainty of her next steps was a constant source of anxiety. Later that morning, Daniel decided to visit his family's archives. He hoped to uncover more about the mysterious benefactor and gain insight into the connections between his family and Maria's past. As he sifted through old letters and documents, he found himself wrestling with conflicting emotions. The responsibility of uncovering the truth was both exhilarating and daunting. He wondered if pursuing the mystery would only complicate things further for Maria and Anna. Meanwhile, Maria found herself wandering through the mansion's garden, seeking solace in the peaceful surroundings. She was lost in thought, trying to come to terms with her fears and uncertainties. The garden, with its vibrant flowers and serene fountains, was a world away from the harsh realities she had faced. It offered a temporary escape but also highlighted the vast gulf between her past and her present. As the day wore on, Maria and Daniel found themselves at a crossroads. Maria had to decide whether to continue accepting Daniel's help or to find a way to stand on her own. Daniel grappled with the decision of how deeply to involve himself in Maria's life while balancing his own curiosity and sense of duty. The evening approached, and Daniel returned to the mansion with a mix of hope and frustration. He had uncovered some new information, but it only deepened the mystery. The more he learned, the more he realized how complex and interconnected their lives had become. Maria, too, was wrestling with her internal battles. The tranquil garden had provided her with some clarity, but the decisions she faced were far from resolved. She knew that moving forward would require courage and strength, qualities she had relied on throughout her life. As night fell, the mansion was enveloped in a calm that belied the internal struggles of its occupants. Daniel and Maria, each lost in their thoughts, faced the realization that their journey was far from over. The path forward was uncertain, filled with difficult decisions and emotional challenges that would test their resolve and their relationship. The shadows of the evening served as a reminder of the choices yet to be made, and as the moon cast its soft light across the mansion, both Daniel and Maria knew that the coming days would demand not only answers but also a deep understanding of themselves and each other. The journey ahead was fraught with difficulties, but it was a path they would have to navigate together, with all the internal conflicts and hard decisions that lay ahead. The morning sun cast a soft, golden light across the mansion, signaling the start of what Daniel hoped would be a day of clarity. After the emotional turbulence of the past few days, he was determined to uncover answers that might ease the uncertainty surrounding Maria and Anna's situation. He had spent the night poring over family archives and old documents, hoping to find a clue that would bring everything into focus. As Daniel made his way to the library, a sense of anticipation mixed with anxiety filled him. The library, with its towering shelves and ancient tomes, had always been a sanctuary for him, a place where he could lose himself in history and discovery. Today, however, it held the promise of uncovering a truth that could change everything. Maria, meanwhile, was starting her day with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The clarity she had found in the garden had given her a renewed sense of purpose, and she was determined to face her situation head-on. She had decided to spend the morning exploring more of the mansion, hoping that immersing herself in her new surroundings might provide some distraction and insight. As Maria wandered through the ornate halls and lavish rooms, she stumbled upon a room she hadn't seen before, a private study adorned with family portraits and historical artifacts. The room, though beautifully decorated, had an air of mystery about it. Maria felt an inexplicable pull to explore it further. Meanwhile, in the library, Daniel had finally found a lead, a faded letter that seemed to hold the key to the puzzle he had been trying to solve. The letter was from an old family friend, detailing a significant event involving a charitable donation that matched the description of the one Maria had mentioned. His heart raced as he read through the letter, which hinted at a deeper connection between his family and Maria's past. With renewed determination, Daniel decided to seek out Maria and share his findings. He made his way through the mansion, hoping to find her and offer some answers that might ease the growing tension between them. As he approached the private study, he heard a faint sound coming from inside, a sound that seemed both curious and hesitant. With a gentle knock, he opened the door to find Maria examining the family portraits, her expression a mixture of intrigue and confusion. "Maria," Daniel said softly, stepping into the room, "I didn't expect to find you here. I've been searching for something that might help us understand the connection between our families. May I show you what I found?" Maria looked up, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Of course," she replied, stepping aside to allow him to enter. "I was just exploring. This room is fascinating." Daniel took a deep breath and handed Maria the letter he had discovered. As she read through it, her eyes widened in shock. The letter detailed a significant donation made by Daniel's family to a charity that had been closely connected to Maria's own family. The details matched the crest she had seen in the old photograph, and the connection seemed too precise to be mere coincidence. "This letter," Daniel explained, "is from someone who was closely involved with my family's charitable activities. It seems that the donation we're discussing was part of a larger effort to support families in need, like yours." Maria's hands trembled slightly as she held the letter. The revelation was both unexpected and overwhelming. "So, you're saying that there's a direct connection between your family and mine? This changes everything." Daniel nodded. His own sense of disbelief mirrored in Maria's reaction. "Yes, it appears so. The letter suggests that there was a personal connection, something deeper than just a charitable act. We need to uncover more about this relationship to fully understand what's happening." Maria's mind raced as she processed the implications of the letter. The connection between their families was undeniable, but the exact nature of that connection remained shrouded in mystery. The idea that Daniel's family had been involved in helping hers, perhaps even in ways that went beyond financial support, was both comforting and unsettling. "I never imagined that there could be such a link," Maria said quietly. "I thought we were just strangers, but this changes everything. It means that there's more to our story than I ever realized." Daniel's expression was one of deep concern and curiosity. "I agree. We need to dig deeper and find out how this connection came about and what it means for both of us. There must be more documents or records that can shed light on this." Maria nodded, her resolve strengthening. "Yes, let's find out everything we can. I need to understand this connection, not just for myself, but for Anna as well." The revelation had sparked a new sense of purpose in both of them. As they worked together to uncover more about their intertwined histories, the barriers between them began to dissolve. The shared quest for understanding bridged the gap that had previously separated them, allowing for a deeper connection to form. As the day wore on, Daniel and Maria delved into the family archives with renewed vigor. The mansion, once a symbol of isolation and uncertainty, became a place of discovery and hope. The revelation had set them on a path of exploration, one that promised to uncover the truths hidden in the past and forge a new understanding between their lives. As evening approached, the mansion was filled with the hum of activity and the quiet determination of its occupants. The surprising revelation had opened a new chapter in their journey, one that was filled with promise and the potential for transformation. The path ahead was still uncertain, but with each new discovery, the sense of connection between Daniel and Maria grew stronger, setting the stage for the challenges and revelations yet to come. The mansion's atmosphere buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety as Daniel and Maria continued their investigation. The surprising revelation about their families' intertwined histories had left them both reeling, but it also sparked a newfound determination to uncover the full story. The weight of the revelation loomed over them, and the next steps were crucial for understanding the depth of their connection. The morning light filtered through the grand windows of the mansion, casting long shadows across the ornate floors. Daniel and Maria had spent a restless night, each grappling with the implications of their discovery. As they gathered in the library, the air was thick with tension and unspoken questions. "Maria," Daniel began, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and apprehension, "we've uncovered something significant, but we need to carefully analyze all the documents and letters we've found. There might be more pieces to this puzzle that we haven't yet discovered." Maria nodded, her gaze fixed on the stack of papers and artifacts spread out before them. "I agree. The revelation has brought us closer to understanding, but it's still a lot to process. We need to be thorough if we're going to make sense of it all." As they worked side by side, their focus shifted to a set of old photographs and correspondences that seemed to hold additional clues. Each document revealed new layers of complexity, painting a picture of a past that was both familiar and foreign. The more they uncovered, the more they realized how deep the connection between their families went. The hours passed in a blur of activity and discovery. Amidst the frenzy, A sense of camaraderie began to develop between Daniel and Maria. The shared mission of unraveling their past created a bond that was both unexpected and profound. The emotional distance that had once separated them was slowly being bridged by their mutual quest for understanding. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the mansion, Daniel and Maria decided to take a break. They retreated to a quiet corner of the library, where they sat down, exhausted but resolute. "Daniel," Maria said, her voice carrying a note of vulnerability, "I want to thank you for your patience and support. I know this hasn't been easy, and I've had moments of doubt, but finding out more about our families has given me a sense of hope." Daniel looked at her, his expression softening. "Maria, it's been a challenging journey, but your strength and determination have been inspiring. We've come a long way, and I believe we're on the verge of uncovering something truly meaningful." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was a member of the household staff, bringing a message from the estate's archivist, who had been contacted for additional insights into the historical records. The archivist's message hinted at a personal diary belonging to a key figure from the past, a diary that might hold the final pieces of the puzzle. Daniel and Maria exchanged determined glances, realizing that this could be the breakthrough they needed. With renewed energy, they set out to locate the diary. The search took them through hidden compartments and forgotten corners of the mansion. Their journey was marked by a growing sense of urgency and excitement, each step bringing them closer to uncovering the final truths. After hours of searching, they finally discovered the diary, tucked away in a concealed drawer within an old desk. As Daniel carefully opened the worn leather cover, Maria looked on with bated breath. The pages were filled with handwritten notes and reflections, offering a glimpse into the life of the diary's owner. As they read through the diary, a series of revelations began to unfold. The diary detailed a personal connection between their families, revealing acts of kindness and support that had not been previously documented. The entries spoke of shared struggles, mutual aid, and a deep, personal bond that had shaped their histories in ways they had never imagined. The discovery of the diary was a turning point. It provided a clear narrative that connected the dots between Daniel's family and Maria's, revealing a legacy of generosity and support that transcended time. The emotional weight of the revelations was profound, and both Daniel and Maria felt a deep sense of closure and understanding. As they closed the diary, the weight of the past seemed to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of resolution. The connection between their families had been illuminated, and with it, the path forward seemed clearer. The mansion, once a place of uncertainty and tension, now felt like a sanctuary of understanding and shared purpose. The evening settled in, bringing with it a sense of calm and accomplishment. Daniel and Maria sat together, reflecting on their journey and the revelations they had uncovered. The emotional distance that had once divided them was now bridged by a deeper connection forged through their shared quest for truth. In the quiet of the library, with the soft glow of the lamps casting gentle light on the old documents, Daniel and Maria found themselves at a crossroads. The past had been unraveled, and with it came the promise of a future built on understanding and mutual respect. As they looked out over the mansion's expansive grounds, they knew that their journey was far from over, but they faced it with renewed hope and a strengthened bond. The tranquility of the mansion that had settled after Daniel and Maria's recent discoveries was suddenly disrupted by a late-night knock at the door. The sound echoed through the grand halls, sharp and unexpected, shattering the calm that had enveloped the estate. Daniel, still processing the revelations from the diary, looked at Maria with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "I'll get it," Daniel said, his voice firm despite the uncertainty. He walked toward the door, the hardwood floor creaking softly beneath his footsteps. Maria followed closely behind, her own sense of unease mirrored in her expression. As Daniel opened the door, he was met by an unfamiliar face, a distinguished-looking man in his early 50s, dressed in a dark suit. The man's eyes were sharp and calculating, and there was an air of authority about him that was impossible to ignore. "Mr. Daniel Hayes?" the man asked, his voice steady and authoritative. "Yes, I'm Daniel. How can I help you?" Daniel replied, his voice tinged with suspicion. The man introduced himself as Robert Sinclair, a historian specializing in local families with historical ties to the Hayes estate. "I've come with some urgent information that may be crucial to your recent discoveries," Sinclair said, stepping into the foyer. Daniel led Sinclair to the library, where Maria was waiting. The tension in the room was palpable as Sinclair began to speak. "I've been researching the Hayes family for years, and I've come across some information that might shed light on your recent findings." Sinclair pulled out a file and laid it on the table. Inside were documents and photographs that seemed to add another layer to the story Daniel and Maria had been uncovering. "These documents were recently brought to my attention. They detail some less publicized aspects of your family's history, details that could change the context of what you've discovered." Maria and Daniel exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. Sinclair began to explain. "What you've found so far is indeed significant. However, there's more to the story. Your families were not only connected through charity, but also through a series of strategic alliances and personal agreements that were kept secret for many years." As Sinclair detailed the new information, he revealed that Daniel's family had been involved in negotiations with Maria's ancestors regarding a potential business venture, a venture that had been abruptly canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. The documents suggested that this cancellation had a profound impact on both families, leading to strained relations and secrecy. "This new layer," Sinclair continued, "reveals that the connection between your families was not just a matter of charity, but also one of business and personal diplomacy. There were mutual agreements and promises that were never fulfilled or publicly acknowledged." The revelation was both shocking and enlightening. The idea that their families had been intertwined not only through acts of charity, but also through complex business dealings added a new dimension to the story. It was clear that there were deeper, unresolved issues that needed to be addressed. Maria took a deep breath, processing the new information. "So, what does this mean for us now?" she asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions she was feeling. Sinclair looked at them both with a thoughtful expression. "It means that there are still unresolved matters between your families. The alliances that were once formed are still relevant today. You may need to address these historical issues directly to fully understand the impact on your current situation." With that, Sinclair handed over a key, which he explained belonged to a safety deposit box that contained additional documents and artifacts related to the business venture. "This may provide more context and help you understand the full extent of your family's connections." As Sinclair left, Daniel and Maria stood in the library, the weight of the new information settling over them. The documents and the key represented a tangible link to the past, a link that would require them to delve even deeper into their family's histories. Determined to resolve the lingering issues, Daniel and Maria made plans to visit the safety deposit box the next morning. The new revelations had transformed their mission from one of simple discovery to one of historical reconciliation. The evening brought a mix of anticipation and apprehension as they prepared for the next step in their journey. The mansion, with its quiet halls and dimly lit rooms, felt like a silent witness to their ongoing quest for truth. The connection between Daniel and Maria had deepened through their shared discoveries, but the path ahead promised to be even more challenging. As they made their way to their rooms for the night, the sense of unity between them was palpable. The unexpected visit from Robert Sinclair had added a new layer of complexity to their journey, but it had also strengthened their resolve. The twist in their story had not only introduced new challenges, but also solidified their partnership, setting the stage for a resolution that was both personal and historical. The following morning, Daniel and Maria prepared for their visit to the safety deposit box with a renewed sense of purpose. The revelations of the previous night had set the stage for a deeper understanding of their family's intertwined histories, and they were ready to face whatever lay ahead with determination and a strengthened alliance. The safety deposit box was located in a small, secure bank on the edge of town. The morning air was crisp as Daniel and Maria approached the building, their steps quick and determined. The sense of urgency had never been more palpable. Each of them felt the weight of their past and future converging in this moment. Inside the bank, the atmosphere was stiflingly formal, with marble floors and subdued lighting. Daniel and Maria were escorted to a private room where a bank clerk presented the safety deposit box. The box was small, but the significance of its contents loomed large in their minds. As the clerk unlocked the box and handed it to Daniel, the quiet tension in the room was almost tangible. With bated breath, Maria and Daniel opened the box. Inside, they found a collection of documents, photographs, and a leather-bound ledger. Each item seemed to hold a clue to the complex relationship between their families. The ledger, in particular, caught their attention. Its cover was embossed with the initials of a long-forgotten business venture. Daniel carefully opened the ledger, revealing pages filled with intricate records and correspondence. The documents detailed financial transactions, agreements, and letters that painted a picture of a relationship fraught with both ambition and betrayal. It became clear that the business venture had failed due to a combination of external pressures and internal conflicts, leaving both families with a legacy of unresolved tension. As they pored over the documents, a sudden realization hit Maria. "Daniel, look at this letter. It's from your great-grandfather to my great-grandfather. It seems to be an apology, but it's filled with veiled accusations. They were trying to resolve a conflict that never got settled." The discovery of the letter was pivotal. It revealed that the failed business venture had led to a personal rift between their ancestors, one that had affected both families for generations. The apology was a desperate attempt to mend fences, but it had been overshadowed by misunderstandings and accusations. Just as the implications of the letter began to sink in, the room's door swung open abruptly. Robert Sinclair, the historian, entered with a hurried expression. "Daniel, Maria," he said, "I've just received troubling news. It seems that someone else has been interested in these documents. There's a chance that the information you've uncovered could be at risk." The tension in the room spiked. "What do you mean?" Daniel asked, his voice taut with concern. Sinclair explained that there had been recent attempts to acquire the documents, likely from someone with a vested interest in keeping the past buried. "You need to be careful," he warned. "There are people who don't want these secrets to come to light." A sense of urgency enveloped Daniel and Maria as they realized that they were not alone in their quest for the truth. They needed to act quickly to ensure the documents and their findings were safeguarded. Daniel took a deep breath, his mind racing through their options. "We need to finish what we started. This information has to be made public. It's the only way to honor the truth and the legacy of our families." With Sinclair's help, they quickly organized the documents and made arrangements to secure them. As they prepared to leave, the sound of a car engine revving outside caught their attention. Looking out the window, they saw a dark sedan parked ominously near the entrance, a vehicle that had been lurking in the background throughout their investigation. "Let's move," Daniel urged, his voice urgent. "We can't let them get their hands on these documents." They made their way out of the bank, the adrenaline fueling their haste. The sedan followed them as they drove towards the mansion, its presence a constant reminder of the stakes at hand. The journey back was marked by an uneasy silence, each of them acutely aware of the danger that loomed. Upon arriving at the mansion, they found themselves in a high-stakes situation. The documents were safely hidden, but the confrontation was far from over. Daniel and Maria had to confront their own fears and doubts while ensuring that the secrets of the past were brought to light. As night fell, the mansion seemed to close in around them. The tension was palpable, and every creak and whisper of the house felt charged with meaning. The final confrontation was imminent, and the weight of their decisions hung heavily in the air. The final hours before the confrontation were spent preparing their evidence and securing their position. The documents were carefully reviewed one last time, and the strategy for unveiling the truth was meticulously planned. Daniel and Maria knew that their actions would not only reveal hidden truths, but also determine their future and the resolution of their family's legacies. The clock ticked steadily towards midnight, the anticipation building with each passing moment. The stage was set for the climax of their journey, a journey that had begun with a simple act of curiosity and had evolved into a confrontation with the very fabric of their family's histories. As they faced the final challenge, Daniel and Maria stood united, their resolve unwavering. The truth was within their grasp, and with it came the promise of resolution and understanding. The final confrontation was not just a battle for answers, but a quest for justice and reconciliation that would define the legacy of their families for generations to come. The dawn broke over the mansion, casting a golden glow across the expansive grounds. The early morning light seemed to herald a new chapter, a sense of calm following the storm of the previous night. Daniel and Maria had worked tirelessly, their eyes heavy with fatigue but their spirits resolute. The confrontation had been intense, but now they faced the final steps in their journey, bringing closure and forging a new beginning. After securing the documents and finalizing their plans, Daniel and Maria had contacted the relevant authorities and historians. The truth they had uncovered was now poised to be presented to the public. The sense of urgency that had driven their recent actions was replaced by a profound anticipation. They were on the cusp of transforming their family's shared history into a beacon of transparency and reconciliation. In the early hours, they gathered in the study, a room now filled with the faint scent of fresh coffee and the quiet hum of anticipation. Daniel reviewed the press release they had prepared, ensuring every detail was accurate and compelling. Maria sat across from him, her gaze steady as she proofread the final draft. The room, once a sanctuary of secrets and tension, now felt like a space of hope and possibility. "We're ready," Daniel said, looking up from the documents. His voice carried a blend of resolve and relief. Maria nodded, a soft smile touching her lips. "We are. It's time to share the truth and move forward." The press conference was scheduled for later that morning. As Daniel and Maria drove to the venue, the city was awakening to the news that would soon ripple through its streets. The morning air was crisp, carrying with it a sense of renewal. The venue, a historic hall with elegant architecture, was filled with reporters and journalists, their chatter a mix of excitement and skepticism. Daniel and Maria arrived, their nerves steeled by the gravity of the moment. As they stepped into the hall, the noise gradually subsided, and the room focused on them. The stage was set, and the lights cast a spotlight on the couple, signaling the start of a new era for their families. The press conference began with Daniel taking the podium. He spoke with a steady voice, addressing the gathered media. "Today, we reveal a chapter of our shared history that has long been hidden. It is a story of unresolved conflicts and missed opportunities, but also one of redemption and hope. Our family's past is intertwined in ways that have shaped our present, and we believe it is time to confront these truths and seek understanding." Maria joined him at the podium, her presence a symbol of their united front. "We've uncovered documents and stories that reveal the true nature of the relationship between our families. This journey has been both challenging and enlightening. Our goal now is to foster a dialogue that leads to reconciliation and a renewed commitment to mutual respect and collaboration." As they spoke, the room absorbed every word. The reporters scribbled notes, their expressions a mix of curiosity and intrigue. The press release outlined the key findings and the steps taken to address the historical grievances. It was a clear and transparent account, designed to open a path to healing. The conference concluded with a Q&A session, where Daniel and Maria answered questions with candor and composure. The media's questions ranged from the specifics of the historical revelations to the future implications for both families. Each response reinforced their commitment to truth and reconciliation. As they left the venue, the sun was higher in the sky, casting a warm light on the streets below. The weight of their task was lifted, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. They had taken the necessary steps to resolve the past and were now ready to embrace the future. Back at the mansion, Daniel and Maria found a moment of quiet reflection. The house, which had been a witness to their journey, now felt like a symbol of new beginnings. The echoes of past conflicts were fading, replaced by the promise of a fresh start. "We did it," Maria said, her voice filled with quiet satisfaction. "The truth is out there, and we've laid the foundation for something better." Daniel nodded, looking around at the familiar surroundings with a renewed sense of purpose. "Yes, we have, and now it's time to move forward. Our family's past is no longer a burden, but a lesson that will guide us as we build a future based on understanding and respect." As the day turned to evening, the mansion's grandeur seemed to take on a new light. The past, with all its complexities, had been addressed. The future now stretched out before them, filled with possibilities and promise. The legacy they had uncovered was no longer a shadow over their lives, but a beacon guiding them towards a new beginning. Daniel and Maria knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but they were prepared. Their journey had forged a bond between them, one built on shared experiences and mutual respect. The resolution of their family's history was not the end but a new chapter in their lives, one that they would write together with hope and determination. Click on the video being recommended to you now.